In England, after months of planning and preparation, it was D-Day -2. General Eisenhower was about to unleash the most massive amphibious invasion in history. During the big build-up, England had become a vast staging area for troops and the materiel of war.
England in wartime is the land of blood, sweat, and tears. A nation blackened and battered by the fury of the Nazi Luftwaffe. But it's still England, and for young Americans on their way to war, there is much to see. Wartime Britain is a place supercharged with excitement, literally the crossroads of the world.
Every day was D-Day for the Air Force. From dawn to dawn, the sound of aeroplane engines filled the air. England, now a green and pleasant unsinkable aircraft carrier, launched immense fleets of planes to scourge the enemy in Europe, blow down his factories, tear up his railroads, explode his ammunition dumps, fight his air force out of the sky, kill his troops wherever they were to be found. No city in German Europe was safe against the onslaughts of the Dominion and American Air Force and the RAF. The bombs were dropped on Schweinfurt, Bremen, Kiel, Wilhelmshaven, on the German production centers in France, beating Nazi war industry to its knees with a merciless arithmetic of bomb tonnage.
We kept bashing away at German targets, mostly steel and oil. The Ruhr, Hamburg, Battle of Berlin.
Things were getting tougher every trip. More ground defenses, more night fighters, more crews not coming back.
Us bombardiers seemed to do nothing but look down on French bridges those days. We used to ask each other, have you cut any good bridges lately? Well, finally, there was only one whole railway bridge left over the Seine between Paris and the sea.
At the end of May, virtually all of southern England is one vast staging area. The roads of England are clogged with convoys as men and supplies begin to move down to the ports and the loading areas. The Nazis also know what the Allied forces are preparing for, and they are making preparations of their own. Along the coastline, they have built an Atlantic wall, which Adolf Hitler says will make Europe an impregnable fortress. By the spring of 1944, the Nazis know that an Allied invasion is imminent, but they cannot tell when it will come or where. They think the attack most likely will strike where the distance across the Channel is narrowest, at Calais. Consequently, their strongest forces and fortifications are concentrated here. The actual target is one of the best-kept secrets of the war. The attack will come along a 50-mile stretch of coastline in the province of Normandy, dominated by the vital port of Cherbourg.
A few of the many cameramen ready to cover D-Day. Of these war cameramen, we can only show you a few, but these are some of the men who will risk their lives to shoot this gigantic military venture.
We were down on the south coast of England, where we met some of the other correspondents who were scheduled to cross the Channel with us. And here we see Larry LeSueur of CBS. Ernie Pyle here. And this is a close-up of Jack Thompson of the Chicago Tribune. And this is O'Reilly, Larry O'Reilly of the Associated Press. This is Wurtenbecker. Pete Carroll here came from Boston, and he was a photographer for the Associated Press. And we're saying our farewells because we were expected to meet again in Paris. And I don't have to tell you who this man is imitating. He was a Notre Dame football player. I was told later on that he was killed in the action.
D-Day -1. invasion forces began embarking in England. Destination, Normandie. Involved in this massive amphibious invasion were some 3 million soldiers, sailors, and airmen. 4,000 ships and boats. Operation Overlord, the code name for the invasion, was close at hand, now as D-Day and H-hour approached.
These men who have come from so many countries and speak so many tongues, gathered together in Great Britain, form this vast Allied army.
Move it! Move! Move it!
The Great Armada begins its ponderous move into the Channel waters.
They gave us the final briefing then. We knew what to do and how. They told us where and when. Ever since I became a soldier, they were getting me ready for this. I tried to imagine how much fear I would have.
17,000 men of the 82nd and 101st Airborne Division, with over 2 million pounds of combat equipment and supplies, were airlifted to carefully selected drop zones behind the invasion beaches.
Now begins a new period of waiting for the one final word. An invasion ship is a lonely ship, writes a correspondent who is there. It is a strange and suspended world, but heavy with memories of the more familiar world left behind.
Nazi bombers attempt to smash the Armada, but they are driven off. The sky is filled with steel as plane after plane fails to break through the withering barrage. Now the enemy is throwing everything it has at the Yankees.
The invasion armada, the largest ever assembled, was now in position off the coast of France. While our assault forces prepared for H-hour, Allied naval power began their concentrated shore bombardment. This was amphibious warfare on a scale that staggered the imagination. At Omaha Beach, in the first assault, 30,000 American troops stormed ashore.
We called our beach Omaha. Don't ask me why. I understand Omaha was the roughest spot. We lost some good men, took a few prisoners. It was a lousy trade. You know, you hear a lot about how long it takes to make battle-hardened soldiers out of green troops. Listen, I got to be a veteran in one day. That day.
So they paved the beaches with their blood and lurched across the dunes and reached the roads.
8 stations are established on the spot, and an astounding record starts piling up. The checkup later reveals that 80 to 90% of the wounded received medical care within 10 minutes of being hit.
The hard crust of the German West Wall was broken.
The first batch of Nazi prisoners, the Supermen who believed their West Wall impregnable, and a Frenchman to whom the stars and stripes spell liberty. He's waited a long time for this.
With every passing hour, with each passing day, reinforcements streamed ashore to enlarge the beachhead with tanks, trucks, ammunition, and supplies.
Ein Datum von weltgeschichtlicher Bedeutung. Unter dem Druck Moskaus haben Briten und Amerikaner die seit langem angekündigte und von uns erwartete Invasion begonnen.
The Nazis were blind with rage. The German mind has never understood why free people fight on against overwhelming odds. Hitler now knew he was superior in every weapon except the weapon of spirit.
Our need for ports was vital as our breath. All our plans turned upon Cherbourg. All our strategy waited upon its empty docks and piers.